Okay, so in part 2, we're going to activate this display all students button, okay, and make it so it displays all students. So in part 1 we did add a student, where you can add a student, and add a student, and then add another student. Okay, and return to the main menu. But now we've wired up the display all students button. So when you go display all, you can see all the students, and they're automatically allocated a unique ID, 1000, 1001, and we're telling the user how many students were found, and we can return to the main menu. Okay, so this is what we're doing in part 2. We're doing this display all functionality. Stay tuned. There's a lot more to come. Later in future videos, we could be doing file I/O, searching, sorting, all sorts of things, linked lists, you name it. So it all depends on what sort of feedback I get. If people like what I'm doing, I'll make more videos. So it's all up to you guys. Click the like and thumbs up and leave comments if you like what I'm doing. Thank you. Enjoy the video. Okay, so let's get to it. We're now going to right-click on there, on a package, and say new empty fxml class. Okay, and I'm going to call this one, so the first one was called student add. This is going to be student display or display all. Student display all fxml. Okay, still in that package, that's right. That's the only thing I changed. Click next. We're going to use the controller, and we're going to create a new controller. And don't worry about the cascading style sheets for now. And that's it. So we've got our new display all students. And let's double click on that and open SceneBuilder. Okay. And so we want to, how do you want to display them? We'll just display them in a text area for now, but you could use a J table or a nice table sort of with columns. We're just going to use a text area for now and maybe worry about making it prettier if there's, with resizable columns on tables, if there's demand later on, if, enough people like the video, use the video, whatever. So we want GUI controls. And we probably want a button, maybe an OK button for down the bottom. I'm just winging this as I go. I'm just making it all up off the top of my head. A text area, nice big text area there. I'll make that fill up most of the screen. And a button, and maybe a label on top there for display all students or something like that. So label. Display all students. And we'll center that. I'll make that the usual sort of size, 24 I like. 24 is good. Make it bold, and then just drag it back into the center so it's can't center. There it is. And this one. And we'll just call this the OK button. OK, in other words, close or whatever. And we'll center that again. And in the button, in the code for the button, we'll make that the OK button or close button, whatever you want to call it. Okay, and we'll make it the OK button handler. I'll make it close button. Copy, paste, handler. That's got a handler. For the text area, that's just a great big multi-line area where we can type data. We'll call that display text area or output text area or whatever you want to call it. We don't need a handler for that one or any drag and dropping going on. There's nothing there. I think that's all we need. So the OK button is going to move us back to the main menu. And display all is going to be displayed when they click the display all students button on the main menu. Okay, so that's probably about all we need to do in SceneBuilder for now. So we'll Control S to save that. Back to NetBeans, and there's our student display all. So we'll right click on that and we'll go make controller, and that will just refresh the controller with the latest GUI components and names that we've used. Okay, so there's our controller. And we can see there's our close button in our display text area. So we know what the close button does, or actually maybe we should say close, return to main menu. What did we say over here for the student? For the add a student, we said return to main menu. So let's call it that, okay? We'll call it that name so we're consistent across our application. So return to main menu, and so let's call it that. Just so we're consistent. Consistency is important. So it's not that one. It's that one. I'm just juggling lots of windows here. Return to main menu, recenter, and the code's going to be return to main menu button, and it's going to be return to main menu handler. Okay, so return to main menu. Just rename that button there and give it a better name in the code, just so we're consistent across our scenes. It's good to be consistent. Control S to save. Let's go back to SceneBuilder, and we'll right-click on that FXML again and say Make Controller to refresh it. And you'll see it's now got the latest version of our names and the latest handler. So we know how to do this handler. We've already done it in our student display all, student add. Go down to that controller there, down to the end to the display all, or to the return to the main menu. There it is. There's our code. And don't forget we have to add throws exception there as well into our method. So that's the one from our student add a student screen. We're now going to pop that onto our display all students screen into the return to main menu. And we need to put a throws on there. Okay, so we've got the throws exception. So that's our, so we should have navigation go between our scenes now for display students and our main menu. Let's give it a try. Clean build and run. Display all, hang on, we haven't got the display all students button yet. I just had a couple of phone calls, so it's distracted me. Display all students. We've already set up the code properties there. Let's go down to the bottom. We've already set up the button name and the handler. So we'll just go back to NetBeans now and wire that up. And in the FXML controller. And so we've got the add a student there. Now we need to jump to the display all students scene. So display all students. Again, I'll line up my curly brackets. Trying to set good examples for my students. And we're going to jump to the student display all FXML. So we'll grab that one, paste it in there. So we're going to jump to that one now when I click display all. Run it again. Oh, got to put a throws. And run it again. Display all. There's a display all. Return to main menu. Add a student. Return to main menu. So all that's working fine. We've got 3 scenes going now. Everything's a bit off-centered. It's a bit messy. Doesn't matter. I don't care. I just want to show you the functionality. You can worry about prettying it up later if you like. So if anyone hauls me out of the coals for not being centered or lined up, well, grow up. Get a life. Return to main menu. We will also make our exit button do something as well. So we'll do that. We'll do that in our FXML document controller. And when the user clicks exit, the exit handlers run. And when it's going to system.exit -1, or system.exit 0. 0 means everything's okay. Exit the application. So let's just check that as well. So we've got our exit button wired up. Yep, so it's exiting fine. I've got an error going on here because I've got 2 different versions of Java on my machine. I've actually got about 4 different versions because I run adopt open Java as well. So don't worry about these red messages here. They mean nothing. They're meaningless. That's display all. Now for the tricky part. There's a display all controller. We need to, every time this display all student screen is displayed, we need to refresh the students. The trouble is we don't have the students in this class. There's no student array list here. Okay, the class that knows about the students at this stage is the student add controller. Okay, it's got the array list at the top here. There it is. Now we could make that private, a private class field or class data item. Okay, and put a method in here, get student array list, and that would return a reference to the array list, and we could call that from the display all if we wanted to. Whenever we needed it, we could say student add FXML controller dot get student array list or something like that. Okay, but this, if we just leave it like this with nothing, no private, no public in front, it's protected. And protected means anything in the package can use it. So all of these other methods here, all these other classes, can get access to that student array list, which is fine for what we're doing. Okay, this is good enough for what we're doing. We don't have to worry about writing get methods to get a reference to this array list. We can just use it directly. Okay, and we're just using it within our own project. So this is a protected field with nothing in front. It's protected, which means any class inside the package can use it. Let's go to our controller, our display all controller, and there's our text area. And with text areas, you've got two main methods. There's this set text and get text. They're the main two. There's plenty of other ones as well, but they're the main two we'll be using. And so when we want to display the all students, we want to refresh the text area with the latest data, and the latest data is coming from that array list. Okay. Now, to get access to that array list, because it's instance data, we would need to do something fancier than we can do right now with what we know about Java. So to get around this for now, I want to make that a static field, which means it's created once for the class as a whole. And if we instantiate this class many times, it's just created once. And I'll just we could put public or private or protected on front there. If we do nothing, that's protected, which means anything in the class in the package can use it. Okay, so I've got static there, which means it's now a static field. So we don't have to create an instance of our controller to get access to it. We can just use our controller class name dot followed by the array list name or whatever the static field is. Okay, so let's do that in our display all. Okay, so it's static.display all, and that gives us access to the array list. Okay, so what we're going to do is loop through all students in the array list for student S in our array list. And what we're going to do is now display the details to a text area. Okay, so this array list, again, is part of our student add XML controller. And we're looping through all students that are in that array list. Okay, and what we could do is, in fact, what we will do, we'll just keep it simple. String out string. Again, there's better ways to do this, but we haven't done enough Java yet, so we'll create an out string, and for each student, we'll go out string equals plus equals. So out string equals out string plus, and we'll get that student dot toString, get a string representation of the student, and tack on a new line. Okay, so for each student in our array list, we're converting them to a string, which means we're running this toString method that's in our student class. So it's going to run this toString method, which outputs them with nicely formatted data, name, phone number, and email. So it'll run that for each student, and then add a new line on the end. Okay, and then the last thing we need to do is make our text area contain that data that we've just generated. So TextArea dot set text to outstring. Okay, so we're building up a string of all the data that's in the student for all the students, a multi-line string, and then we're adding it to the text area, or setting the text area to that string, so it'll display all students. Let's see if we can make that work. Compile, all good, and run. So we'll add a student, because actually let's go back. We'll display all students to start with, and there's no students, so that's working. There's no crashing. Let's add a student. That's Moose. And Moose, that'll do, at net. There we go. That just to keep the validator happy. We'll add a student. So now we've got one student there. We'll add another student, two students, three students. They're all called Moose. We're not checking for duplicates. Return to main menu and then display all students. And there they all are. See, they're all not lined up nicely in columns. If we add a student with a longer name, and Frankie's phone number is a really long phone number, and his email address is a really long or short, Frankie at hotmail.com or something, and we'll add that. Maybe not have that quite so long. We'll add a new student. So now we've got another student in there. Return to main menu and display all students. And we've only got Frankie. Okay. So something's going on, isn't it? Okay. Something's going wrong. We're losing our data that's got between every time we add a student and go back again, we're losing all our data. Okay. So what's going on? Let's have a look at our add XML again. And you'll see the answers down here. This initialize method is run every time the scene is displayed, or every time the controller runs. And we're recreating the array list. So anything that's in the array list, we're overriding. So because this is a static field, what we might do is create it up there as well. So equals new. Submit that up there, and then take that out of there, or comment it out. Okay. So this code here only runs the creation when the class is first created. Every time the scene is displayed again, it's not recreated. It's just created once because it's static. Okay. So that's why the static's important. Okay, so we create it up there, not down here in our initialize, so it's not recreated each time. And let's run again. And we'll add a student, and it's moves, and add a student, back to main menu, display, there's moose being displayed. Let's add another student, Frankie, and hotmail.com, let's add another student. So now we should have 2 students in our array list. Return to main menu, display all, and they're both there. Okay, so by making that data item, that array list static, it means it's only created once when the project is first run, not every time the scene is displayed. Okay, let's return to main menu and exit. What if we want to make it so students are automatically allocated IDs? Again, this is where, just on the subject of static, I'm showing you how useful static is. So, if we had a student ID up here, private int stud ID, and we increment that each time a student is created, so we'll do it down here in our constructor. Okay, so our student ID is incremented, and we'll also display them in our toString. Student ID, the decimal data will make it that they're 8 digits long. 8 OD means 8. 8D, so they're 8 digits long, and student ID, so they'll be the first field displayed. I think that's probably all we need. We could add a setter and a getter for the student ID as well, although if we're allocating the ID automatically, we don't want anything setting the ID. We want to make it so the system sets the ID. Nothing outside the class can set it. Okay, so again, this is instance data. These are all instance fields. So student ID isn't static. Okay, so when we increment it here, we should be getting the same ID for each student. Let's run it and see. Add a student. We'll add that student 3 times and then display all, and you'll see the student ID is 1 for every student, then it's not getting incremented. Okay, I should add a little bit of a space in there as well, so plus, just add 2 spaces between columns or something. Okay, so we need to make it so the student ID automatically increments, and maybe we want it to start at 1,000. Let's make it so it starts at 1,000. Okay, and again, the best way to do this by far is using static. So let's do that. Create a static field. Public, private, doesn't matter. Private, static, int, last used, stud ID. And we'll kick that off, we'll start that off at 1,000. Okay, so our student ID numbering starts at 1,000. Okay, so instead of doing student ID ++ here, we want to set our student ID equal to the last one used, and then increment the last one used. Okay, so the first student should be 1,000, next one should be 1,001. Let's give that a try. plus. I missed out a plus sign down there. Let's run that. Add a student. Moose at, just Moose, yep. Moose at net. Okay, students created. Let's keep adding mooses. So we're adding mooses with all the same details. Okay, so we've added 4 now. Let's display them, and you'll see they've all got different IDs: 1000, 1001, 1002, 1003. So that's the beauty of static. If you want a field to be created once per class object, once for all class objects, so there's only one version of it for all class objects to share, then make it static. Okay, so it's really useful. So we've got student IDs, names, phone numbers and emails. We could add headings in there if we wanted to. To add headings in, we could start out here, stud, ID, name, phone, something like that. If you want underlines in there as well, you could put underlines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, space, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, no, lost count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15, 20. Remember how I made our name 20 characters wide? 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that should be pretty close. Should be pretty close anyway to what we want. So that's going to add a heading on top and then add the student data below that. Plus a /n there, plus a /n. We don't want the student data out here, we want it on a new line. Okay, let's run that. Add a student. Okay, let's add a student. Moose at net. Oh, sorry, that should be CMail. Oops. And just to show you they are different students. Frankie, Bella, add a student. So we had 3 students: Moose, Frankie, Bella. Back to our main menu, display all, and you'll see that Moose, Frankie, Bella, 1001, 1000, 1000, 1001, 1002. So the IDs are being allocated properly. Now what we got going on here, our data's not quite lining up nicely because we've got a proportional font being used. Okay, so what we're going to do is make it so we've got a non-proportional font. In other words, all characters are the same width. Lowercase I is the same width as uppercase X. Okay, like Courier New, System, they're 3 great non-proportional fonts. So we'll make it so TextArea contains or shows data in that non-proportional font. Exit. Okay, so we're going to do that just once, really, and yeah, we could do it down here. We could do it down here in our display TextArea. We could set it up and initialize, so we'll do a set font in there. Okay, so the way you set the font is you say whatever GUI control you want to set the font for. .set font, and you go new font. It's exactly the same between Swing, AWT, and JavaFX, which is quite nice. So this bit of code hasn't changed between the various GUI methods in Java. Courier New, we're going to say Courier New because that's a nice one I like using. Say 14 point. 13, I don't know, whatever you want, 12, doesn't really matter. 12, okay. So we've done a set font there, so we need to do an import. And we don't want to do AWT fonts, it's got to be JavaFX.scene.fonts. So it's got to be the new font class. The old fonts don't work with the new scene GUI components, JavaFX. Okay. Well, they can, it's just a bit fiddly, just a bit more fiddly, that's all. So we'll choose JavaFX scene.text.font, and that fixes that error. And let's run. Let's close and run. Add a student, Moose. Return to main menu, display all, and there they are all nicely lined up. Okay, things aren't quite right. We've got the digits coming out too fast, so we're going to put another character on that. But overall, it's pretty good. Not too bad. Okay. You can fiddle around with it for ages, but that's neat enough for what I want. We could also display the number of students found if you wanted to in the bottom there. We could do that. Let's do that. So we'll add the number of students found. And I'm going to go... And for the students array list, it's to get the number of items in an array list, it's .size. Okay. So we'll add the size on. So we're outputting a little minus greater than at the bottom there, and I'll say the number of students, and I'll go students found. Okay, on the bottom there. Make it a little bit clean, a little bit nice and neat. You know, if there's 100 students, it's just say someone counting them all up. Let's do let's shut down that and run. Students found plus that. Oh, there's no, I've taken off the quote there. Sorry, there's a quote missing there. Okay. Add a student, Moose. I think I'm going to add a test data button in soon so that I can just click the test data button and all this gets added each time. It saves me entering these over and over again. Add students. There's 2 students anyway. Let's display them. And there they are. So I've got 2 students found. So I need to put a space between the 2 and the students. There we go. Just put a space in there. That'll space that out nicely. The other thing we can do is that we can type in this text field, a text area. It's just a text area. So I can just start typing in there and just type whatever I like. Okay, so we want to turn that off as well. We want to make it so it's display only. Okay, so again, anywhere in our initialize in the display students controller, we can just say anywhere in that method, display text area dot set enabled to false, and that means it's disabled from user entry. Read only. Only. There we go. So it'll be read only now. Sorry. It's not enable, set editable. Editable. There we go. That's better. Okay, so now it's read only. Set editable to false for that text area. Let's run. Add a student. at Moose and phone and okay, back to main menu, display students, and I'll try and type in. I'm clicking in there and trying to type, and you'll see I can't type. I'm typing like crazy on the keyboard, and nothing's working. Okay, so now we've got add a student and display all students. So we're moving quite well. Next thing we might add a course and display all courses, which is going to be very similar. We're just going to copy and paste and change. Okay, and then we'll come on to combining the two. So you can say, for a student, here are the courses. We can add courses, remove courses for a student. Okay, for what they want to study. Okay, that's all coming up in the future. Oh, last thing to change is the version number, of course. And again, we could do this in code. And it's now version 2. And of course, we can also make it a lot neater and tidier, but we'll come on to that as things go. Okay. I'll move the exit button down to show that we are going to add more stuff. And so room for more buttons in here that are going to come in the future. Okay, well, I hope that was useful. We're only up to part 2. We've got plenty more to go. We've got file I/O. We've got searching and sorting. We've got linking the two up. So we've got students and courses. Students can take courses and remove courses. All sorts of things coming up. If you like the video, let me know. Okay. It doesn't cost you anything to click a thumbs up. It doesn't cost anything to leave a comment and say thanks for the video, Mike, that really helped, or Moose, call me Moose. You know, a little bit of feedback really helps keep me motivated to keep creating more courses, okay, more videos. I'm doing it in my own time. I'm not getting paid to do this. This is all my own time, okay. I've got classes I teach these courses with, but all of these videos are extras I do for my students that can't come to class, all in my own time. I'm not getting paid to do this. So thumbs up if you can. They're free to give. I hear you don't have to pay for them. Thanks for watching. Hope the video was useful. See you in part 3.